What's going on, everybody? If you're watching this video, you're probably thinking about joining the military, know someone in the military, or are currently serving yourself. But you might not know what the Air Force is actually like. Now, a little bit about me. Before I joined the Air Force right after high school, I had no idea what the Air Force was going to be like. In fact, I didn't actually know anybody who was in the Air Force. It wasn't until I actively began serving in the Air Force that I truly was able to understand what it was all about. My name is Brandon, I'm an active duty Air Force officer, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 misconceptions out there about the Air Force. Starting the list off at number 5, and probably the biggest misconception out there, is a lot of people think that everyone in the Air Force flies planes. Now, I can't tell you how many times I meet someone new, and as soon as they find out I'm in the Air Force, their next question is, what plane do I fly? Well, it is kind of funny to see their reactions when I tell them I'm an officer in the Air Force, but I don't fly. It does highlight that a lot of people actually do think that being in the Air Force means you fly a plane. As I mentioned in a previous video, while flying is a huge part of what we do and our identity as a branch, it isn't everything. In fact, only about 10% of people who are in the Air Force are actually pilots themselves. So if you want to join the Air Force and do something different, whether it's a cop or combat rescue or even work in an office, you could absolutely do that. Next on the list at number 4 on top misconceptions about the Air Force is the idea that when you join the Air Force, everything is free. Now, I'm the first to admit that being in the Air Force, there are a lot of benefits that we have that other people in the civilian world don't get, whether it's education and medical, just to name a few. But us in the Air Force, we still have to pay for our own stuff a lot of the times. Just like in the civilian world where you really work in order to make money so that you can provide for your house and your family, it's the exact same way in the Air Force. In our branch, we actually have to pay for our house, our bills, and even the uniforms that we have to wear when we go to work and we do our Air Force duties, we have to pay for that ourselves out of our own pockets. Number 3 on the list of misconceptions, and honestly, it's a big misconception and one of the reasons my mom was happy I joined the Air Force and not any other branch, it's deployments and the idea that if you join the Air Force, you're not gonna deploy. Now, not to burst your bubble, but if you stay in the service long enough, at some point in your career, you'll have to deploy. While our deployments do look a little bit different than the other branches, in the fact that when they deploy, they take large groups from their base to their deployed location. In the Air Force, our deployments typically will range for about 6 months at a time, and what will happen is you'll go from your base, that is whether it's in the States or in a different country, and you'll go to the deployed location, typically in the Middle East or Africa or some other place around the world, for that 6-month time period, and then you'll return back to your base. Now, in the Air Force, there is a difference between being deployed and being stationed overseas. Being deployed literally means that you're going to deploy to a location, but eventually, after your time is done, you'll come back to your base. Being stationed overseas means that you'll be leaving your base in the States or another overseas location and quite literally moving with your family and all of your household goods to another base for anywhere between 1 to 3 years, and sometimes even longer than that. Next on the list at number 2 of top misconceptions out there about the Air Force is the belief that when you join the Air Force, you can't have a family. Now, personally speaking, that isn't the case at all. If you want to have a family in the Air Force, whether it's a spouse or children or even a fur child, that's 100% possible. In fact, I would honestly go as far to say that a lot of the struggles that people find with having a family in the military are the same struggles people find when balancing a career and a family in the civilian world. But the Air Force does have a lot of great programs for people with families. So whether it's the Child Development Center to get care for your children while you're at work, or programs to get military members who are married to other military members stationed together throughout their entire career, the Air Force has a priority on helping families stay together and giving people the opportunities to grow their families. On top of that, in the Air Force, you actually get parental leave, whether you're a mother or a father, And if you so choose to adopt, you actually get leave to go and do the adoption process. And on top of all of those amazing benefits in the Air Force for families, there's also the opportunity to get your dependents, whether it's your spouse or your children, dependent ID cards for them to actually get base access and get the same medical treatments and medical opportunities that you as a service member would get. Now, rounding off the list at number 1 of top misconceptions out there is a big belief from a lot of people that when you join the Air Force, you have to do 20 plus years. Where the 20 and more years comes from is the idea that if you serve 20 years or more, you'll get a retirement paycheck after you get out of the service. Now, while that is awesome, and a lot of people do tend to go that route and spend their entire adult careers in the Air Force, it isn't everyone. In fact, a majority of the people will actually get off before they even reach their 20-year mark. So if you're thinking about the Air Force just to stepstone a career or gain some life experience before you pursue something in the civilian world, that's 100% possible and 100% okay. In fact, a lot of people see the Air Force as an opportunity to get their education paid for or even just to get some work experience before they pursue an outside career. So that was my 5 misconceptions about the Air Force. If you have anything that you think a lot of people assume about the Air Force but don't actually get it right, drop it in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time. See ya.